welcome back to Blooms and Bicycles. During the month of May, ombres of greenery burst back into life again, and long sweeping blooms, both trailing and tall, and in many shades of lilac, sway in the warm spring breeze. Celebrating this beautiful time of year, and as the nights draw out and the days become warmer, we are so excited today to bring to you the Lilacs and Long Days flower collection. In this first episode, we'll be showing you how to construct the large letterbox flowers. Making the most of the abundances at this time of year, no two flower stems are the same in any piece from this collection. To begin with, you'll take your sachet of flower feed and add half to the water. The other half of this sachet, if you keep it to one side, and in another 2 to 3 days time, refresh the water, add the remaining sachet of food, and then wash under a cold running tap each of the flower stems to get rid of any biofilm. Once you've done this, then remove the bottom ½ centimetre of every stem. This is because as flowers stand in their water over time, the stems begin to get a bit mushy on the very edges. So by removing the bottom ½ centimetre, it just allows them to fully absorb all of the water and nutrients, and therefore altogether as that set of steps, you will increase the longevity of your flower display significantly. And now we're going to start by creating the grid. To do this, we'll take the strongest of stems, and with this display, that will be the dried cherry blossom branch, the salal tips, the eucalyptus, and the Thlaspi. So to create the grid, we'll cut in half the cherry blossom branch, and we'll cross them over on opposite sides. Next, we'll take the eucalyptus, which naturally has a hook-like shape to its branch. Then we'll take the salal, and we'll add this to make a 4-way cross. Next, with the Thlaspi, as you can see, there are numerous offshoots from the one stem. So we'll take away each of these and give ourselves a number of different shoots to work with, making sure they're not too long when they're added to the water vessel. It doesn't matter if the head of the greenery sits close to the opening of the vase. And what we'll just do is make sure that that is positioned in the gaps created by the cross formation you've made with those stronger stems a moment ago. And we'll just bring it upwards, some of this Thlaspi here, so we've got a centerpiece. So the first flower to add is the Amaranthus. This is because it's such a top-heavy stem, having so many flower heads attached to the one branch. So if we therefore find its happy place up front, before any of the other flowers are added, at least this way it means that it doesn't move out of position any of the other flowers that you end up putting time and effort into arranging in the way that you want. So we're going to make the most of the grid and position this right in the centre. And this is where you really find the Thlaspi comes into its own. So we'll lean this off to one side, giving consideration to the fact that the Hydrangea and the Peonies still need to go in. And because this flower head is so long, it's actually really nice when it trails off the sides. So the month of May is also known as the time for peak season for peonies. So therefore, we are also incorporating 3 different varieties into each of these designs. So to begin with, we'll take the 3 different types and we'll create a triangle formation towards the front area of the vase next to the Amaranthus. So what we'll need to do is take away any of the leaves which will fall under the watermark. So now we'll create a triangle formation using the coral peony as the tallest one to create the highest point in the triangle. So I think in this case, we'll just need to take about 1 inch away. Making sure you cut at an angle, it allows the stem to take up as much nutrients as possible. Now with the other 2 peonies being more in a softer pink, they'll sit on either side to one another as the 2 lower points in the triangle. And as the petals open up, they start to create a star formation. And you can actually tease the petals to do this if you would like to see them open up straight away. So with the 2 pink peonies marking the 2 lower points in the triangle, we'll trim this stem off significantly more. I think we'll go a good 7 inches, maybe 5 to 7 inches on this one. And therefore take away more of the leaves. And we'll just position this under the eucalyptus. The good thing about the eucalyptus, it has such a weight in it. It helps position the softer, longer stems such as this peony. It really holds it down. So as with the other pink stem, we'll cut this to a similar length. And then we'll make sure they sweep off to one side, given the fact that the hydrangea will then sweep off into the opposite direction. So now that we've added the 3 peonies, all of which are in very much the pink tones, we'll then start to counterbalance that by adding in the Astilbe and the mushroom flower. So we'll do this by adding these to the right hand side, but whereas these ones are sweeping off into the front, we'll make sure these retain their height, already being naturally long stems, and we'll position them towards the back. Again, cutting at an angle, it just makes sure that the flower gets as much as it needs. So I think this mushroom flower, we're trying to create an overall balanced shape. Up to now, we've got the height of the Astilbe, which kind of matches in with the height of the coral peony over there. And now with this pink peony sweeping off almost horizontally on the left-hand side, I think we'll try and create something similar. It doesn't have to be exact, but we'll try and create something similar with the mushroom flower. So in which case, when you position it, you hold it at the back of the vase, visualize whereabouts you want it to sit, and this gives you a good indication as to how much you need to remove. In which case, I think we're looking at about 2 inches. So we'll just come in. Again, it doesn't have to be in the mirrored position, because nature doesn't work like that anyway, does it? So next we'll take the hydrangea. Again, hydrangeas are a very top-heavy stem because the flower head is so large. We therefore need to make sure that they aren't too high up on the vase because they'll topple over and disturb the arrangement of the other stems. So again, we just hold it into position on the outside of the vase to help us visualize where we'd like it to be, and use this to give us an indication as to how much needs to come off the bottom. So I think it'll be nice if it's positioned towards the front to balance out where the peonies are on the opposite side. And I therefore think we need to just take away a couple of inches again. So again, with a slight upwards and downwards motion, we just weave it in to the flower grid. So the other thing to remember is that there is no right or wrong when it comes to floristry and arranging your own flowers. It is just about personal preference. So these guidelines just offer you ideas, but at the end of the day, every stem is so unique and can be taken advantage of in its own way. So if you feel like you want to do it differently, go ahead. So next we'll take the candle-shaped flower stems, being the gentiana, the aconitum, and the matiola. As you can see, the gentiana is much more on the blue side of the spectrum than the other two. And therefore, when we position these into the vase, we'll make sure this sits somewhere roughly between the other two to create that contrast. So again, we just remove our leaves, which will fall under the mark of the water level. And again, just hold them close to the vase to help you start visualizing whereabouts you'd like everything to be. So actually, this being a very naturally tall stem, we'll take advantage of it and we'll only trim about 1 centimetre off the bottom just to freshen it up. And I think this will look nice, leaning slightly off to the left to balance out the blue hues going on with the hydrangea, which are on the right. Then with the aconitum, because we already have some purpley hues going on with the hydrangea, I think this will also add a nice contrast if on the opposite side. So we'll just go ahead and put the aconitum there. And then again, because it's all about contrast, we'll position the Matiola just behind the Hydrangea. And I think we'll just make sure the mushroom flower still has its own space to shine, because they're all so beautiful. It's just about making sure you take full advantage of everyone's individual characteristics. The other good thing about the grid, the flower stems don't have to sit at the very bottom of the vase. You just need to make sure that the water level remains high. So just keep an eye on it every day and keep topping it up as it needs. Next, we'll take the Bouvardia and the rose. Being very similar in their shape, because the flower head is all at the very top and they're both very long in the stem, we'll use these to create some, again, overall natural symmetry. So nothing too mirrored, nothing too regimented, but we'll use them to complement each other. So looking again at the overall design before we decide where to position things, with the coral peony being at the front on the left-hand side, towards the very front, I think it will be quite nice for the coral rose to sit on the right-hand side towards the back. And if it was to do that, I think again, the size of this stem is fine as it is, so we'll just take 1 centimetre away off the bottom, just for the sake of freshening it up. So the Bouvardia is a particularly hot pink, and I think this might be nice as a centrepiece. So somewhere towards the middle of the design, where there's currently a void. And again, it's all just about preference. So just keep going until you feel happy, or until your flowers feel happy. And as you arrange your flowers, if you keep moving around the vase to make sure it looks good from all the different angles. So we're just down to the final few stems now, being the Ammi Visnaga and the Nigella. These are both very naturally long stems. So I think again, if we start to position these, maybe in this negative space here, which is high up in the design. So I think it might be quite nice for that Ammi to sit there. Being quite green, it will contrast against the bluey purples as well as the corals and the pinks. So we'll trim that off. Gently weaving it in to the grid. That's perfect. And then finally taking the Nigella, which is actually pretty spectacular when you see how many stems come off the one branch. Look at all those flower heads. And I particularly love this Nigella because of the colour. It's like a very delicate lilac, looks almost ethereal. And in the flower world, there are many flowers which are in this same shade, and it's known as Milka. So at the moment, there's a slight void here in this area. And what we can always do is move the Gentiana slightly off to the opposite side to then allow for the Nigella to sit alongside it. We'll just trim a couple of centimetres off the bottom, because we do want to take advantage of its natural height, and we'll just allow this to fill that final negative space. And as the very final touch, we'll just take our violet sweet pea, and that will be perfect, just about there. So there you have it, the Lilacs and Long Days large letterbox flowers. I hope you enjoy.